Contact front. We're back out at the range today to play a little bit with the Flux Raider, right? This is kind of the tool I've picked out to fit the PDW slot in some of my loadouts, right? Especially for like a hiking or a travel gun. It fits absolutely perfectly in my laptop bag, and it's a good in-between carrying just a pistol and maybe not going all the way for a full rifle, but you still want some extra stability. So as you saw in the opening clip there, I was able to conceal this underneath a light rain jacket basically, and still with a full-size optic, though you could go with something a little bit more low profile, but I can suck it up right up underneath my armpit here using the JTF PDW sling that we developed for the Flux Raider specifically. And we developed it kind of loosely based on the HK MP5K sling, but we couldn't find anything stateside that was basically equivalent or within a reasonable price range, because the HK slings were running about $90 plus shipping, usually from Germany. But the sling plays like a dual role, right? So as you can see from the opening there, I was actually able to clear my jacket and bring this up and fire it basically kind of from the hip, if you will. And that's really good for close protection details where you might be the front guy and you're right up on somebody, and you can actually control it one-handed, keep the person back, or fire and reload, because you can carry a spare reload on the gun, right? Now, you can't really deploy the sling from this fashion. You can disconnect it from the sling and then deploy, but it allows you to keep it very concealed, right? Now, the Flux Raider in particularly is probably one of the best chassis I've ever used. I mean, look at this thing. Just a great size, great form factor, great ergonomics. I love that it carries a reload. Both these mags are empty, by the way, so don't worry. And I love the package that this fits into. So 5-inch barrel compensator, got a Surefire X300 on there that's seen some better days, and a Primary Arms MD20 SLX optic on there. 2 21 round magazines, so 42 plus 1. Just fantastic, right? So I'm a big fan of the top charging handle, though it does get a little bit warm after you shot it quite a bit. But this fits great in a laptop bag, and underneath the armpit, inside of a vehicle. It's just practical. And why do I think it's probably one of the best options for a private security guy, right? Or for like a close protection detail? Well, one, for the main fact, in the state of Texas, as a level 4, or any security officer, armed security officer for that matter, you can only carry pistols, revolvers, and shotguns, right? So you're not allowed to carry a long gun, and sometimes in certain situations when I've worked level 4 kind of stuff, you want a long gun or something that's a little bit more accurate or stable than a pistol, especially if you're going to be firing one-handed, controlling somebody, pushing somebody back, opening doors, vehicle doors, whatever, carrying things. You want a little bit more stability, and that's where a braced pistol, where you could brace it against your cheek, whatever, really comes into the limelight, if you will. So this is still classified as a pistol because this is a right-handed brace, and you can still fire it like a regular pistol. You can still manipulate it up front if you have to. You can still activate the light, and like I said, you can still brace it. And I love, it's pretty stiff, but I'll take both mags out here. I love that you can deploy this one-handed. I mean, so if you're controlling somebody, if you're moving a principal around or whatever, deploy and go, you can still control the gun and use your other hand without having to extend a stock or move it around or whatever. It's perfect for that. So let me kind of show you what this can do with the sling and how it can work out of a bag. So kind of going with the early G-Watt private contractor vibe, I got my nice little tan jacket. This is a Vertex of some kind. I don't know, I bought it years ago, but I bought it for an A-Team cosplay basically as Hannibal. And I just actually really like it, so I just use it for everything. But with the sling in the standard configuration, so just like a traditional sling where you have it over the shooting arm and across the support shoulder, this thing works great. It's elastic, so I can still move it, and it comes back to where it needs to be. And this is the same sling from earlier. The other way I had it was it basically formed an X across my back and looped underneath both armpits, and that kept the gun high and tight up under the armpit. But now it allows me to maneuver it like a regular gun, right? So let's get it loaded up and I can show you a little bit how that works, right? I mean, granted it's not fully concealed, you still have a little bit of the gun sticking out right here. But, you know, if you're kind of doing like a low profile approach, you can still conceal it fairly well where, you know, people probably know your security and they know you're armed, so you're not really trying to hide it, but you're just trying to do it to like not be a total eye magnet, right? But this way you can actually conceal something that is fully functional and essentially a small carbine on the go. I love this little setup. And then I can even show you how fast some of the reloads on this thing. It's fantastic. Reloading. Now, that is one issue I've had, is I've gotten a couple of stovepipes, right? Now, I believe it might be for two reasons. I don't think it's anything to do with the chassis per se. It is more than likely the spring I have in here, which is the stock spring in conjunction with the compensator, and the fact that I'm not using plus P ammunition. If I was using duty grade ammunition, it would more than likely be plus P 135, 124 grain, possibly 147. And I think it would have a little bit more oomph to kind of overcome the short stroke, if you will. This ammunition in particular is Norma, I believe 96 grain or 105 grain, something like that, frangible ammunition. I'm testing that stuff out today, as I will be doing a Thunder Ranch class here pretty soon, and they require frangible ammunition on all their ranges and their handgun classes. So I've only really had that ammunition problem with the Norma and some lighter MagTech loads like the 115. But I believe with plus P, which I have shopped this already with a couple of plus P loads, I haven't had an issue at all. I'm gonna keep playing around with different ammunition loads and specs and see exactly kind of really where this thing shines. I may have to swap out the recoil rod here for something that's a little bit more stout, or probably not. Probably have to go for a weaker one if it's not going to cycle properly with lighter loads, right? But you can mount a whole host of optics on this thing, right? So like I mentioned earlier, this is a Primary Arms MD20. It's just a little red dot, but I wanted something kind of like an aim point. I felt like it fit really well on here, and I wanted something low profile. I know some people like the higher optics, but for me, this thing just sits just right, and it still stays compact enough that I can fit it in my bag, and it's very concealable, right? This one's got the buttons on the top and the battery compartment on the side. I wanted that because if I'm wearing it underneath my armpit or in a bag like I was earlier, I don't want these being adjusted without my input, you know what I mean? And another cool thing is that in the brace back here, there's actually a compartment that will hold a spare battery for this size, as well as down here at the bottom, it actually holds a Allen wrench that fits the compensator and just about all the screws that this thing is assembled with. So you kind of have some field maintenance and spare batteries on the go, which is just fantastic for a travel gun. You can't always take everything with you, and you might be away from home, and this kind of comes with some stuff to maintain it in the field. One of the other changes I made to this is the top charging handle, so I can cock it Chuck Norris style, right, like Mac 10, but it also features a luminescent dot that I can still use as an iron sight with the rear sights here, because you can actually still use, if you don't have the gas cap, there's a cap that covers this up if you're shooting suppressed, but without the gas cap installed, you can still use the iron sights through that little portion back down there, especially if you're going to be firing it like a traditional handgun. Overall, I'm super tickled with this thing. I don't know how else to put it. I just really love how this thing is set up and how well it shoots when it doesn't stovepipe on this ammo, but it's just so absolutely fun to shoot. And this is just the stock P320 trigger in there. I don't have their nice fancy X series or whatever. I'm not a Sig guy, I don't know what triggers they have, but it's still really fun to shoot, and you can shoot it relatively quickly and accurately. Accuracy wise, it's a little bit better than a handgun with the braced position. As a handgun, just firing it traditionally, it is just like any other pistol really that I've fired. It all really comes down to the shooter. But yeah, you can make substantially longer shots on this thing. The farthest I've been able to take it out so far with the time that I've had with work and everything else I'm doing, it's probably been about 50 to 75 yards, and that's not an issue with this thing at all. But this isn't exactly meant to be like a long distance engagement tool anyway. It's more of a up close and personal, or you caught me by surprise and this is all I brought kind of thing. And I think it fits that role just perfectly. And with a 5-inch, well, it's more of like a 5.5-inch with the threaded barrel, you get some decent velocity out of that 9mm, so it really makes it really squeezes out as much performance really as you're gonna kind of get without really bulking the thing out. And I like that. I like that a lot. It's just so fun. And as some of you have seen in one of my earlier videos, I carry a travel bag, right? This is kind of like my go-to travel bag. It's a Vertex dead letter sling. And it fits my laptop and like a medical kit and some water bottles and just kind of general stuff like pens and window breaker, flashlight. I got a whole nother video on that thing. But I was trying to find something that would work really well with this bag, and a folding AR pistol didn't really work in this thing. I had like another holster in there, but really all I could do was carry like a full size. So like if I'm carrying this Glock 48, I could then carry like a Glock 17 or Model 45 in here with additional magazines or whatever, but I still only had a pistol, right? And I'm still limited to things I can do with a pistol. So with the dead letter, it's got this big compartment in the back, which you could use for a laptop or whatever, but it has another compartment for a laptop. But it fits really well for the Flux Raider, right? So you can rip it open, pull it out, and ta-da, you have a Flux Raider. And in the bottom of it, you can fit the sling, so you don't have to keep the sling attached. You can pull it out, use it if you got to, and then reach in and grab the sling if it's going to be out for extended periods. You might need to free up your hands or whatever. But this is a really good option for this bag. It fits perfect, and I really like it because it actually has a thumb activated safety, kind of similar to an AR like a CZ Scorpion. So I can actually have this with the safety engaged, and you can carry it on empty chamber if you wanted to. I don't, but I can open it up, pull it out, deploy it. Oh, got a malfunction there. See, I went ahead and dropped the mag because I thought it was empty, but it's stovepiped on me, and it's only with the frangible ammo. But you can pull this thing out of the bag and deploy it super fast. Anyway, so like I said, fits perfect in the bag, closes up, doesn't take up any extra room, but you can still bring it out and go to work. It's fantastic. So the JTF PDW sling, right? It's basically just a big O loop of this 3/8 US made shock cord. It's super strong. It's almost like an exercise band, and it's attached to a black treated stainless steel QD, which is also US made. And then it is sewn and held together with metal wire basically here. So that sucker's not coming apart on you unless it just straight up rips, right? But this sling is like the most minimalist, low profile one that we could come up with for use with things like the Flux Raider. And it works exceptionally well for it, and I really enjoy using it for that purpose. I think it's a great PDW sling option, and I guess time will tell if other people feel the same way, right? And like I said, the only hang-ups I've really had about it have been the reliability issues. Every once in a while it has that, well, more than once in a while, it has that stovepipe malfunction, and I can only determine that it's got to be an imbalance between the guide rod and the spring weight on the guide rod and the frangible ammunition I'm currently using today, along with the 115 grain. I haven't had it with the 135 or the 147s, but those were plus Ps. So I might have to tune it a little bit, especially if I'm going to be using mostly like 115 grain for practice and stuff. Or I may just have to just run straight plus P through this thing. That might just be what it likes. So other than that, I've had zero issues. Didn't take the safety off. It's got a safety. It's got a safety. Malfunction, malfunction. Didn't deploy all the way again.